In my Bible readings in the morning, I listen to them, as I've said before. I'm in Leviticus right now. Some riveting listening. And it's not that it's boring. It's that you're conveying procedure and things that are necessary for you to know how to do. But it doesn't make for an entertaining listen, and that's not the purpose. However, as I was on my drive yesterday, there's one of my favorite passages in Leviticus, because I imagine such a cool party. It's the year of Jubilee. And I'll talk a little bit about what that is and then make an application for us tonight. And then we'll sing the invitation song and invite you to respond to the gospel. But, I'm always loved the idea of the Jubilee. The idea is there are years. We talk about the Sabbath. When God established the Sabbath, he worked those 6 days creating and making, and on the seventh day he rested. And the same thing was true for Israel. He wanted a Sabbath year, 6 years, and then a seventh year, something different would happen. And so every 7 years, the land got a rest. I mean, you've harvested, you've planted, you've taken your toll on this earth, but in year 7, you leave it alone. And he even addressed their concern, well, how are we going to feed ourselves? He said, you know what? Year 6 will produce enough that you'll be eating it in year 8 and even in year 9. It says it right there in Leviticus 25. Don't worry about that, but you give that land a rest. And that's the Sabbath year. 7 Sabbath years pass by, which is how many years? 49, right? So 7 times 7, 49. He says in this month of that year, you're to blow the trumpet, declare that next year is the year of Jubilee. 50 years. So what's 50 years mean in your life? I mean, for most of us, it's going to mean we got to see this once in our lifetime. There will be a couple of people here and there, I'm sure, who got to see 2 of these. But by and large, this is a monumental event for an entire generation. And what's so special about that 7th year is everything resets in a way. God says the land is mine and I'm giving it to these tribes. So I'll let you sell it, but you're not actually selling it. It's perpetually that tribe's. And so if you sell it, you're selling how many years are left to the Jubilee. But on that 50th year, it goes back. It's that person's property again because I gave it to them. Same thing goes with people. If you have a loan and a debt that's there, right, that you owe somebody, year 50, it's done. That debt is released. And if you became so poor that you had to sell yourself into servitude to somebody else, and you had to give your means to them, your work for them, and trade for them to take care of you, year 50, you're a free man. Can you imagine that party? Can you imagine how many parties there would be if just their college loans were forgiven? Right? Scot-free, you're out of it, right? Your mortgage is forgiven. You own it. It's all yours, right? Imagine what that would be. Now, there were some stipulations, and we won't get into all that, but the law required that the debts are canceled, the property reverts to the owner, and that servants are set free. And so how does that relate to us? Well, there's 2 clauses here. One of them is that idea of redemption. If I had to sell my land to you, let's say in year 2, you bought it for those 48 remaining years, I could buy it back. Before year 50, if I was able to talk to my friends and family network and scrape up enough cash, I could redeem that. That's one concept that applies to us. How was I redeemed? Because I sold myself to somebody else. I sold myself because I served them, I did their will, and I got trapped in the mire. And yet, somebody else could pay that price that I couldn't pay. And so when I look at the application for us, we were redeemed. Christ's blood redeemed us and bought us back. Titus chapter 2, verse 11, for the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people, training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives, waiting for our blessed hope, the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness, to purify for himself a people for his possession, who are zealous for good works. Jam-packed full of good stuff here. Number 1, you're God's. You were always God's. And he's willing to buy you back if you just be willing to let him. What did he buy us back to, though? He bought me back to put away that old life, to walk not in lawlessness, but to walk in his law. to do the things he asked me to do. He bought back a people who were zealous to do good stuff. Are you zealous to do good stuff? Or is it okay, it's something I've got to do? I've been on both sides of that fence. But he bought us back to be zealous for good stuff. So one piece of that is the redemption, that idea that it can be bought back. The second piece, as we wrap up tonight, is the Jubilee itself. That it's all going to be his. It was his to begin with, and he's going to take it all back. Are you Christ's tonight? Because if you are, at our year of Jubilee, at the end time, he will take us back. We'll be his forever. Our Jubilee is coming. There is a Sabbath rest, a permanent Sabbath rest for God's people. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 4 and following. For he has somewhere spoken of the seventh day in this way. Let me pause there. One of my favorite passages. The writer of Hebrews says, for he has somewhere spoken of in this way, God rested on the seventh day from all his work. You ever had trouble remembering where that was in the Bible? Love this passage. Makes me feel better about myself that I can say, I don't know where it's at, but I know it says. Okay. So somewhere he said, God rested on the seventh day from all his work. And again in this passage he said, they shall not enter my rest. So, since therefore it remains that some will enter in, those who formerly received good news failed to enter in because of disobedience. But again he points a certain day, today, saying through David so long afterwards, and the words already quoted, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. So the core of the invitation tonight is right there. Today, if you hear his voice, and he wants you to be his, he wants to redeem you, you have a choice whether or not to harden your heart. And he's pleading with us, don't harden your heart. Let this be the one that softens you. For if Joshua had given them a rest, God wouldn't have spoken about another rest. So then there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For whoever has entered God's rest has also rested from his works as God did. So, if you are God's, you'll be with him in the year of Jubilee. If you're not, you won't. And so today is the day that you get to choose, am I going to accept those changes I need to make? If I've never been a Christian, am I going to accept submitting to him fully and becoming his? Pray that you do that tonight. But we make this decision every day. Even if I accepted the gospel, will I make that change that I know I need to be making that's in the back of my head plaguing me? Today, don't harden your heart. Come to him. Be his. So that when we have our year of Jubilee, you'll be his forever. Pray that you'll come forward tonight as we stand and as we sing the invitation song.